You're on. Yeah.
Hello, welcome everybody. I am Dr. Jenny Tufenkian, naturopathic physician, bringing you a reminder to love, which is where I get to teach you information so that you can take better control of your health and thrive. We all need to shine our light brighter in the world right now. Wouldn't you agree? Today, I'm going to be talking about things that can be energy zappers, things that are keeping you from not quite having enough oomph in your life. And I'm curious, how would you rate your energy right now? On a scale of 0 to 10, where are you? If you're 0, you're kind of flat in bed. If you're a 10, you're feeling pretty good. So you should be like a 7 to 8, or I should be an 8, 9, or 10 most of the time. And if you're not, then something is sucking the energy out of you. It's kind of like one of those dementors from Harry Potter, where it's like this thing that's sucking your soul out, except it's sucking your energy out. It's an energy drain. What would your life be like if you had 30% more energy? What would that mean for your relationships? How would you parent? What would that mean for your financial situation? What would that mean for just how you feel? If you had 30% more energy or even 15% more energy, how would that make you feel? There are a lot of causes that can make you feel not so well. I know many of them because I suffered from chronic fatigue syndrome for years, and I was really down, and I know what it's like to be stuck in bed and to frankly feel hopeless, to just feel scared and not sure if I'm ever going to get better. If you're there, I really feel you. I understand what it feels like, and please pay attention because I have some tips for you. Others of you are you don't feel sick, but you're just not able to have that optimal life that you want to have. You can't go for that next thing. And some of you may feel like it's because you're lazy. I get this all the time with my patients. They're like, yeah, I kind of want to go for this job, or I kind of want to date, but I think I'm just lazy. I just turn on Netflix instead. It's usually not because you're lazy. It can be because you've got something else going on with you that's dragging you down. On my road to recovery, I had to dig deep into the research. I had to figure out why. And I figured out 5 root causes that cause fatigue. The same 5 root causes that cause people to get really, really sick are also the 5 root causes that keep people from getting to their optimal health level. So wherever you are, the information is useful. One of those root causes can be a toxicity, and one of those can be for molds. So today we're going to talk about mycotoxins and how those might just be zapping your energy and keeping you from being out there doing what it is that you want to do in the world. Now, the thing I have to warn you about this topic is it can be really overwhelming and instill a lot of fear. And that is frankly why I'm here with you today, because I don't want you to go there. I have listed out 4 key things that we're going to go over today. We're going to talk about what they are, where they are, how do you know if you have them, and what the heck you can do to get rid of them. And that's what we're going to cover today, so that you can just kind of bounce over the little fear thing best as you can. And you can shorten your steps because I've walked this path already, and I can teach you what I know. Those of you that are new to my lives, I need to let you know I'm calling this a teach-in. I tend to go kind of in depth, so you might want to grab a pen and paper and take notes, or plan to watch this a second time. I have my little board here today because I'm a visual learner. I know a lot of you are visual learners, so I've written some stuff down, and I apologize for the handwriting. I am a physician, and this is what it looks like. Speaking of being a physician, none of this is meant to diagnose or treat. This is information for you to be empowered so that you can talk to your care providers and get the best health that you possibly can. So I am going to warn you, I have to be totally honest. Some of the causes of fatigue are fairly easy to move through, and others take more time. Mycotoxins take more time to heal. And I actually got flared up myself this past week. Fortunately, I had my toolbox ready so that I could start really dosing myself more with different things and get my load down so I could be back in my life and be here with you today. And that's what I want for you. I want you to have that toolkit together so that you can do what you need to do to get your health back. All right, so and I'm going to be, I'll check in with Tracy. Tracy is fantastic, and she is monitoring this for us. So she'll be checking, we're hooked in with a couple different Facebook pages right now. She'll be monitoring them for questions. I'll check in a few times, so please write in your questions. Let us know you're there, because we can't tell unless you say, hey, hi, how are we? So that lets us know we're connected with all the different teams that we're supposed to be. And I'll definitely be hanging out at the end for questions. So please, if you have questions, hang on to those and ask them. So what are mycotoxins? So mycotoxins they're not mold, but they come from mold. They're a toxic byproduct of mold itself. They're not actually alive, but they are a thing that kind of acts like they're alive. They're sort of weird. There's one mycotoxin that you may have heard of. It is called penicillin. Yeah. So penicillin is actually made from bread mold, and it is a mycotoxin. Not all mycotoxins are really make you sick. Some can make you better in certain kinds of doses. So where the mycotoxins, basically you find them wherever you find mold. So where you find dark, damp places, think of moldy places, or wherever you have decay. So outside, when your tree falls down and it starts to rot, there's going to be mycotoxins there along with the mold. It's part of life to have mycotoxins. And they're also in our food, unfortunately. And well, not unfortunately, it's just part of life, right? But this is one of the things where it can get a little bit challenging because they tend to get into our grain silos and they spread like crazy in the grain silos, which has actually given us a lot of great information about how to take care of them in our bodies. And I'll tell you about that in a second. So they get stuck in our bodies. So you can find them outside, anywhere anything's decomposing. You can find them in your house where you've had moisture damage. This is what happened to me. I had actually never heard of these guys until we had somebody come in and do a moisture assessment and found out that indeed we'd had water damage years before, but the mycotoxins were still there. That's the thing, they persist even after everything is dried up. And so you may have had water damage years ago and still have them. In our body, they tend to, I don't know if you guys can see this, they go into our sinuses, our gut, our fat cells, our kidney, and our liver. So this is one of the things where you could have lived in a moldy apartment, like in your 20s in that cheap college apartment, or I'm sorry, maybe in that now. And you can get a mold exposure that could have had mycotoxins. Those go into your sinus passages and they tend to create like this biofilm kind of layer in there and hang out. And they can stay there for a really long time. So it can be a cause of that low grade persistent kind of fatigue or headaches. We'll go over the symptoms in a second. But it's something you can carry around for a long time. And then like anything else that's chronic, it can get activated or get up to a certain level where then you start to feel symptoms. And that happens to a lot of people that I talk to. It seems like they got their original infection a while ago. They can also be in your gut, wreaking havoc in there, and they tend to like to hang out in our fat cells, which means that they also unfortunately go to the brain and can cause damage there and affect our nerve system. We excrete them through our kidneys and through our liver. Sometimes they get stuck in that process. So we'll be talking about that in a second too. So that's what they are and where they are. Oh, and back on the what they are part, there's like 400 different mycotoxins that we have names of so far, and there are a lot more out there. And there's some that are more dangerous than others. Some of them, so, the big question everybody has is, do I have these? Is this like something that's really affecting me or not? And we figured this out through 3 different things. All right, we figured this out through your symptoms, which I'll go over in a second, through testing. And this is one way you can test, but I'll talk about that in a second. And then, or your history. And so when we talk about history, let me talk about that for a second. History is, like I said, have you ever lived in a moldy place? So if you lived in a place where you knew you had mold, you might be more higher risk for having mycotoxins. If you, but also part of the history is, when do your symptoms flare up? If you have some of the symptoms and they show up every time you walk into that really cool bookstore at the beach where it's kind of mildewy, but then you get this weird headache or muscle joint pain, or you just feel kind of foggy brained, or maybe it's after you eat certain foods that are known to be higher in mycotoxin level, then that is part of your history that you need to pay attention to and start noticing that pattern. I ate the peanut butter the other day and it didn't even taste good to me. Like I said, I think it was a little bit stale. But as I don't usually eat peanut butter, like I actually stopped eating it for years. This year I've eaten it a few times. And now that I'm looking back, I'm going, oh, actually, I don't think I felt great the other 2 times I ate it either. It just was really bad and really obvious this time. And that's sort of typical. So in terms of testing, you can test your home or where it is that you live or your car and see if you have mycotoxins there. You can also test your body for mycotoxins. I actually love it if you can do both. that's what I did. And it was great to see the correlation between what was in my house and what was in my body, because then I was so motivated to get rid of both of them. It motivated us to completely remodel our home, which was great. It was a little great secondary gain. And then the second, I really hung in there with the treatments because I knew that I had this going on in my body. And that is what I recommend for most people to do. The way that you test your home, if you're in the Pacific Northwest, I highly recommend this guy, Jason Kester from Kester Clear. And I don't know if you can see his phone number here. His phone number is, I don't have any, I don't get any perks or anything, except that he's a super great guy. He's this amazing house whisperer. He thinks about houses the way that I think about as a naturopathic physician. I think about my patients. He like dives in like a detective. He's looking every single nook and cranny. He goes and goes and goes until he gets the answers. And that's how I practice medicine. So I love meeting somebody who does their work the same way I do. Jason Kester, 1-844-435-5237. Again, 844-435-5237. He will do a really great assessment of your house, and he can do testing. So when you're doing testing for your home, if you're trying to do it, if you're doing it on your own or you're talking to somebody else, don't get a spore test is not going to test for mycotoxins. That's a real thing you really need to understand. Spore tests test for spores, for molds. That is different from mycotoxins. Mycotoxins persist after the damage has been done and when everything is dry. You need a mycotoxin test, and it's called an ERMI, E-R-M-I test. There's a couple other ones too. The other place that you want to test is test your body. And there's Richie Schumacher is sort of one of the lead physicians who's created a lot of programs on mold testing. He has a very complex list of tests that you can do to see if you have mold illness. I've run those tests on some patients and they can be helpful, but sometimes they don't really get to exactly where I have found I've wanted to go with mine. And I frankly find it a lot easier to just do the mycotoxin test. It's a super easy test, and you guys aren't going to believe this. It's a urine test. And it works better. This is one of my tips. It works better if you actually take a sauna before you take the urine test, because your body in the sauna starts to excrete the mycotoxins. And so it comes out of your urine and you catch more of them. So if you're going to do a urine mycotoxin test, take a sauna first. And my patients love it. They're like, oh, you're kidding. I got to take a sauna and then I just have to pee in a cup. That's all I got to do. It's a pretty easy test. The drawback is that they're kind of pricey. And getting your home tested and getting the mycotoxin test can run you into pretty high, amounts of dollars. And I get that not everybody is there. And you just have to decide where you're going to prioritize your money at that time. And so I have down here the two different places that do the urine test. Great Plains is my favorite, and then Real Time Labs. Those are the two that I know of that do urine mycotoxin testing. The Great Plains is a little bit less expensive, which makes me like them more right now. There's a decision tree that you have to go through whenever you're looking at something like this. And you're going, okay, so how is it that, what do I want to do about this? And, do I want to spend the money to test my house? Do I want to spend the money to test my body? And what I always do when I'm talking with my patients and helping them walk through this is ask a few questions. First of all, if you have the money, test everything. That's just what I would do, hands down, test it. If the money is a challenge, then who is it that's really sick? So if there's one person in the house who's really sick and everybody else is thriving, then test that person, put your money there. If there are a couple people in the house that aren't doing well, so like Joey's got asthma and Betsy has this rash and your husband is kind of like, just, you can tell he's just not himself. He's kind of tired. He's kind of irritable. And you yourself are sick, then do the house, because it's pretty likely that you're going to be able to get rid of whatever it is that's in the house, and that's going to help everybody feel better. And so spend your dollars there. So, and just in case right now, okay, let's see what's on this. So now I get that you're probably in this place where you're like, might be totally overwhelmed and realizing that there are mycotoxins everywhere, and that it's something that you might want to be hiding under the blanket at this time, which is sort of how I felt a little bit. But when it's like, it's hard when you realize that there's something out there that's making you sick and making you feel really terrible. But, but then, you know, you're not, it's hard. And I just realized, let me talk about the symptoms back there. Sorry. Let me talk about the symptoms back here. So on your symptoms, the symptoms are such a long list, which is actually why I just threw myself off here, because I didn't write it down, because there's so many of them. Okay, so they start, I'm just going to go head to toe because that's how I can remember them for you guys, because the list is so freaking long. And this is part of, so your head, you can get headaches, sinus headaches. That's like my number one symptom. Vision changes, like a sensitivity to light, or just your vision starts to alter. Your ears, you might get ringing in the ears, or a sense of pressure or dullness in your ears. Sometimes you get like this sort of weird kind of neck pain. I think it's really the lymph we're trying to attack and get rid of some of the stuff in your neck. There can be a real keynote for this, and this is one of those special tips I can give you because I've done this for so long. A key tip is a metallic taste in the mouth. A lot of the symptoms are sort of general, but a metallic taste in the mouth is pretty specific to there being some sort of mycotoxin type infection going on. You can have mood issues, anxiety, depression is pretty common, being just persistently exhausted, muscle aches, joint pains, all of that stuff. I have had digestive issues where it's like an IBS type of thing with diarrhea or gut pain, completely unexplained by anything else. I have had people who are so sick that they are just called, quote unquote, a medical mystery. They've gone to the Mayo Clinic and nobody can figure out what is going on. And it is from mycotoxins. And that's what it's from. And it can even get to this thing called chronic inflammatory response syndrome, where your body is so flared up, you're sick by everything in your environment. Now, I have to say that if that is the case for you, you really need to pay attention, because it might be your limbic brain. And again, this is one of those tips I can offer you from having walked this path. If you are really, really ill, your limbic brain may be jacked up and you need to work at limbic brain retraining, which is something I'll talk about at some other talk, some other teach-in, but for right now, just keep that in mind. So the symptoms, as you can see, are pervasive. You can get skin rashes or kind of itchy skin. There's all these different things that being coming on. And some of they're so widespread that you think, well, is this the mycotoxins or is this something else? And that is why I think the testing in this particular situation is beneficial if you can do it. But really also really looking at that history piece, like when do I react? That's also going to help let you know like which thing is which, what's going on with you. All right, so now, just in case you're feeling overwhelmed, don't worry. I totally understand. There's a lot of ways that you can get a handle on this mycotoxin thing. And part of the fear, if you're really in fear overdrive, again, that's a limbic thing. That's a place where we can bring in some of our tools to work with our subconscious mind and realize that we really do have the power to heal ourselves. All right. So how do you get rid of the mycotoxins? So first of all, you want to make sure you remove the source, right? So I actually had to live in my house for a year after I knew I had them, after I knew I was pretty sick from them. I had to live here for a year before we had the money to do the remodeling we need to do. And so I just had this crazy high protocol that I did for myself to help. But really you want to eliminate the source. That's the best thing to do. And then you need to keep everything clean. And I'm not going to go into, I'll talk about that in a second. I'm not going to totally go into what it is that you need to do to your house, because there are a lot of resources for that online in terms of how much you need to, do you have to get rid of everything? Can you get rid of just some things? What I personally did is I worked with Jason and I had him come back and test every single floor of my house so that I knew that, and we were fortunate, and then nothing on the top floor was infected. The middle floor, just one section, and the basement was completely toxic. So everything in our basement got thrown away. Everything on the middle floor was either thrown away or deeply cleansed. Everything on the top floor we cleansed just for the heck of it, but I didn't have to throw everything away, which I was grateful for. Some of you who have been in really mold toxic houses know that sometimes you have to say goodbye to everything, and that is hard. It was hard to throw away my grandpa's flinch set. You know, I mean, I had to throw away my artwork from 30 years ago, and I was bummed, but it's the way it goes. My health is more important than my stuff. So what we do now, you want to keep things clean. Once you've gotten rid of the source, you want to kind of keep it up, because there are mycotoxins everywhere, and if you're one of those people that's triggered, then that can be it. And some people, everybody can get sick from some mycotoxins. Like some of the mycotoxins are so toxic that you can get sick from just a little bit of them. But there are some people that are particularly sensitive. About 25% of the population have a gene called the HLA-DR gene. And that makes it so that our bodies don't recognize mycotoxins as a toxic thing and don't create antibodies to pull it out of the body. So that is definitely the group I'm in, and some of you may be in that too. So if that's the case, there's constant, since there are mycotoxins everywhere around us, you just want to have a protocol that you have down all the time that sort of just keeps things together. One of them is that in my laundry, every laundry load I do, I put essential oils in my laundry to clear out the mycotoxins. And I'll go over the list of what I use in just a second. The other thing is getting a big, good air diffuser is really important. So there's one called IQ Air. And Jason taught me this, that I actually had one already. It's one of the best air filters out there called IQ Air. I think it's made in Sweden. And Jason taught me that this actually will filter out mycotoxins. So some people who can't afford to do a big thorough remodel, they can just get an IQ Air and get their air purified and clean. It takes about 2 months to clean out a whole house with the IQ Air, but it can be a really great way to go if that's something that is concerning you and you want to take care of that. We still run our IQ Air just out of prevention type of things, and do the laundry. You want to keep things clean. The other thing that is so fun is that you can diffuse your essential oils, and the essential oils are one of the best weapons we have for mycotoxins. And what's so great is that there are a lot of them that work well, that have been extremely well researched to work great for mycotoxins, and they smell good. So it's medicine that fills your heart, fills your soul. It goes straight to your limbic brain. It can make you feel better. You can do great combinations. And so diffusing are fantastic. And if you think about where the mycotoxins like to live, like they like to live in the sinus passages. And so if you're breathing in diffused essential oils, it can be really helpful. Right now, I am diffusing a purification blend. It's a cleansing blend, and I've added rosemary and lemongrass to that, and that has been really helpful for my flare-up that I've had. And sometimes I'll diffuse a respiratory blend and add some eucalyptus in there, and that is really helpful as well. There is, so what we did when we were wiping everything down is we used special cleaners to get rid of all the mycotoxins. You can make your own with some essential oils. Just tea tree oil, just Melaleuca is amazing. I spoke with this, I love to sail, and I spoke with this woman who does a lot of sailing, and she sells big things of tea tree oil to all the sailors, because if they wash their sails in the tea tree oil, the mold just comes right off of them. So this is a mildew cleaner recipe where you take tea tree or Melaleuca oil and take a 4-ounce spray bottle, add 2 drops of lemon, 2 drops of tea tree or Melaleuca, 2 drops of clove or an immune blend, 2 ounces of vinegar, and 2 ounces of water. And then you can use that to spray on things to keep stuff clean. And that's a really good idea. Like if you had a problem in your basement, you want to wipe down all the surfaces in there. You want to diffuse things. I know somebody that had mold in their basement and they couldn't afford to do the remediation, and they just diffused their immune blend and watched the mold disappear. That didn't happen in my situation, but it is definitely a possibility of things. So you want to clean up, get rid of the source, clean up your space, kind of keep a keeping cleaning ritual going. That's what you want to do. And then you need to get it out of your body, because that's what's really making you not feel good. So if you think about where the mycotoxins like to live, and they're in all these different cavities, they're in your tissues, they're in your fat cells, and all these different places, you want to open up what we call the emunctories. The emunctories are the routes of elimination that our body naturally has to get rid of toxicity. It's doing this for you all the time, day and night, and you can support it by opening them up. And there's some really specific ways I'm going to talk about for mycotoxins. So emunctories are how we get the garbage out. And your kidneys, different mycotoxins leave the body in different ways. Some are more through a liver passage, some are more through the kidney, some are more through the skin. It kind of depends on which ones you have. But I think we can generalize pretty effectively here and just say if you open up your kidneys, it's going to be easier for them to release. So drink a lot of water. And if you add a little bit of citrus oil, then as long as it's a CPTG healthy oil that you can test it, pharmaceutical grade oil that you can put internally, you can take your oils internally. So drinking a ton of water is really helpful. You want to keep your liver functioning well. So taking your whole food nutrients that also have herbs in them that help detoxify your liver every day is a really good idea to be taking those. I love doing castor oil packs, and I love putting detoxifying essential oils in with the castor oil pack, and that can be really great. Since I got triggered again, I know that I have some backup. Some mycotoxins leave via your gallbladder as well. So I'm going to do a cleanse at some point, but it's too cold for me in the Pacific Northwest right now to do a deep cleanse. So I'm going to wait until a little bit later in the spring and do a deep cleanse to get rid of some of this toxic stuff in my body. Skin, it comes out through your skin. And this is great because I honestly find one of the easiest ways to get rid of mycotoxins and a lot of other stuff at the same time, like you're trying to dump some metals and maybe you have a virus and all that kind of stuff, is take an Epsom salt bath every night and put at least 3 cups of Epsom salts in your tub with you, or take a sauna 3 times a week. Those are just like some of the hands down best remedies that you can do for yourself. And if you're kind of heat sensitive, try an infrared sauna, because that a lot of people can handle those for a lot longer. The mycotoxins really affect the gut and they get stuck in there. And they also tend to, just the way that they're charged, you're able to get them out if they have binders. So if you're able to put things in your mouth that go down into your intestines and grab onto those mycotoxins, that's another way that you can get them out. So one is to just, for your foods, eat a lot more vegetables and eat a lot more fiber, because that will help bind those mycotoxins and they'll push right out of you. There's also something called GI Detox, which is a product that has some different clays in it that are quite clean, and those are known to really bind different mycotoxins. There is a medication, activated charcoal is great too. So if you're feeling really toxic, you can take like 2 of these capsules, 2 of the activated charcoal and 2 of the GI Detox twice a day to start binding and moving some of that stuff out. You want to take those a little bit away from your supplements, because there is some concern that maybe they would bind some of your minerals as well, and then you would lose those too. There is a medication called cholestyramine. It's actually a blood pressure lowering medication that is used as a binder for mycotoxins. I think it's great that that's available. I highly recommend you get it compounded if you're going to do it, because there's a lot of junk in the regular product. And unfortunately, it's a little pricey. So most of my patients and myself, I like to use the natural things. And besides, I have an affinity for like the stuff of the earth. I mean, this is like where we're from, so why not use it? All right. So the other thing to get rid of the mycotoxins and this sort of crosses over to getting rid of the load as well, is you want to pay attention to your diet. I'm always a fan of having a really clean, whole foods diet, the best you can possibly have for you. Some of the foods that we consider whole foods, though, actually can be quite high in mycotoxins. And I didn't put the whole list up here because it is truly overwhelming. When I first looked at this, I pride myself on being able to be pretty ingenious with any particular diet. Like I kind of geek out on my friends coming home and going, I can't eat this. And I'm like, give me your diet. I'll figure out some yummy food for you. I love doing this. And I looked at the low mycotoxin foods, and I was like, wow, there's just not much left, because it is part of the decay process. And, foods, once they're picked, they're going to start decaying, and that's just part of life. So if you start looking at websites on this, take everything with a grain of salt, because it has been my personal experience and those of my patients that you do not always have to avoid all of those foods forever. There may be, and this depends on how sick you are, on what else is going on with you. And, I definitely do think you should find a diet that works for you, but there are probably going to be a few foods on the list that are going to trigger you and others that won't at all. So some of the ones that are most highest are corn, peanuts. Organic, unfortunately, is worse than non-organic. I found that out recently, and I was like, seriously, I've been talking to my dad for years about not eating Jif peanut butter, and that's better than my organic peanut butter? You never know. Legumes are super high in mycotoxins. Coffee has a lot of mycotoxins in it because it kind of rots, which is why Dave Asprey has his bulletproof coffee. Chocolate is kind of those funny ones. People say chocolate is really high in mycotoxins, but there has also been some research showing that chocolate can actually, the polyphenols in there can help you detoxify from mycotoxins. So I'm thinking, I think it depends on where it comes from. And I have found there's some chocolate that triggers me and some that doesn't. So getting it from a source that's clean and does a really good job of keeping it dry can be really helpful. So dried fruits and meats, those tend to have more mycotoxins on them and might be a good thing to avoid. And again, there's a more comprehensive list than this, because basically all fruits and vegetables can have mycotoxins. The outside of melons can have a lot of mycotoxins. So just do what you can. And again, I understand that this may be a point where like head under the blanket, but hang in there, because you probably don't need to do all of this stuff. But it is important to have the information so you can choose what you need to do. Be aware that some foods get how they are from mold. So blue cheese is mold. Beer is a rotted product. Mead is a rotted product. Sourdough bread, those kinds of fermented vegetables. Some of my patients can't eat delicious fermented vegetables because that triggers them. Some of the vinegars and things can trigger people. So again, probably not forever, but there may be a period of time when you need to go on a super clean, super simple diet, like a GAP diet or that kind of thing, to really get your health level up. And then you can start introducing foods in as you go. It's a very individualized process. And through, what I always say about the foods and about the remedies and things that you're taking is use your body as its own biofeedback tool. It's the best resource we have. Let it know. Like, I now know that, no, I can't do the peanut butter unless maybe I get Jif. I don't know. All right. So there are so many great ways of destroying the mycotoxins through essential oils. And this is a partial list. I'll go over it with you in just a second. But I have to say, we need to bow in gratitude to the agricultural industry for all the research on the essential oils. All the essential oils I wrote up here have been researched. I spent this last week looking through them and finding the research data on them so that I can present to you with honesty and say, this is what I know. It's definitely been my experience, but I was just curious what the literature had to say behind it. And the agricultural industry, there's all this research that says like, well, what happens if we take our corn silos and we take some peppermint oil and we spray peppermint oil over? Oh, look at that. There's less mycotoxins. What happens if we take rosemary and spray it all over the rice? Oh, look at that. There's less mycotoxins. So it's kind of cool that we have all of this data. Oregano, thyme, cinnamon, cumin, tea tree, eucalyptus, rosemary, cedarwood, grapefruit seed, lemongrass, peppermint, lime, caraway, basil, salvia, clove. That is a partial list of ones that are great to use. I found it fascinating basil is there because I love using basil to support my adrenals, which is right above my kidneys. And I'm just conjecturing here. This is just me conjecturing. But I've wondered if the basil oil is helping also, like as I rubbed that in there, it felt really good to me because it was also helping my body clear some of the mycotoxins that were stuck in my kidneys. It's just a thought. This clove is super powerful, and it's in the laundry soap that I use one with an immune blend in it, and it has clove in there, which is great because it's like killing out the mycotoxins as I do my laundry. I also use another product just because I'm paranoid called EC3 that I get on Amazon, and that has some citrus oils in it. It has tea tree oil and some citrus oils. You can just add your own in there. You can use a purification blend in your laundry, but that's something that we have our laundry soap and we have our stuff, and it's just what we do every time we do a load of wash, just to keep the load down for the whole house. Other things that you can, and again, like I said, diffusing these is great because it wipes out what's in the air. It begins to land on what's on the surfaces in your space, and then it goes into your body. And truly diffusing oils are one of the ways that it gets into our body the fastest. I also personally take oils internally, again, if they're CPDG, they're pharmaceutical and they're safe to take. I take some oils internally, and I've been taking a combination that has some of the melaleuca and some lemongrass and different things in it to help my mycotoxin load go down this week. And some other great things to do are nasal lavage, and you can get a compounded formula with garlic and a statin in it that can be really beneficial. And you also want to support your liver with great herbs and essential oils. You can also use glutathione or NAC to help support your liver detox pathways. I have some of those written down here. I know you can't see them. I will lift this up for you. And also, I do recommend taking your probiotics, and grapefruit seed extract can also be really super beneficial. All right, so I know I just downloaded this crazy amount of information to you, and hopefully it wasn't total overwhelm for you. I know that it can seem like kind of a big deal to be taking care of all this stuff. And what I just have to say is treating these types of infections, this kind of toxicity, it's really stepping into a new way of doing medicine. Instead of that dude that gives you a pill to fix everything for you, instead you're taking your medicine and healing into your own hands. And you start feeling better, and you partly feel better because this stuff works, but you also feel better because you're doing it. You're taking care of yourself. You have the power inside you to heal. And when we tap into that, we are able to thrive. We are able to shine our light. And like I said, we need to be shining bright right now. So thanks so much for joining me, guys. What kind of questions do we have, Tracy, if any?
I'm not seeing any hot and heavy questions right now.
Okay, great. Awesome. Cool.
Jenny.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you so much, everybody. It's Dr. Jenny Tufenkian with a reminder to love. I hope you have the most brilliant day. Thank you.